everybody. My name is Luis Galvez, Technical Marketing Manager with Wolters, Kluwer, Tax and Accounting. And joining me today are Ross Sullivan and Radha Mohan, tax policy experts from the Brownstein Law Firm, to provide insights on recent tax news and updates from Washington, D.C. Today, we'll provide an overview of the COVID-19 stimulus package. And as we all know, Congress finally reached an agreement on a second major COVID package that President Trump signed into law. So, Ross, was this $900 billion package focused more on individual relief or relief for businesses?
Luis, it was good news for both. About half the package was for businesses, mostly small businesses, and about half the package for individuals. On the business side, the feature provision is a second draw of the PPP loans. For individuals, there are two provisions. One is a second stimulus check or economic impact payment, and also an extension of unemployment insurance for those who have lost their jobs.
All right, Russ. So I think business owners will be asking their accountants about the PPP loans. So can you give us the 3 or 4 things that will be most helpful to those individuals and businesses that our tax preparers serve?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the business side first, because there are really 3 significant provisions that tax preparers should make sure their customers are aware of. The first one is available for everyone, every business. It is the Employee Retention Tax Credit, a tax credit that covers part of the payroll cost of a business if they qualify. Congress expanded the provision and made it available for the first and second quarters of 2021. A narrower set of businesses will qualify for an extension of paid sick leave and paid family leave tax credits. Those are businesses who have 500 or fewer employees, and those credits are available through March 31st, 2021. Finally, the PPP loans, which benefited 5 million businesses the first round. This time will be fewer businesses qualify because they limited it to those with 300 or fewer employees. However, they expanded it to a few new categories that we'd like to talk about as well. But those loans are at least the same size as they were for 2020. In other words, 2.5 times a month's payroll.
Thanks, Ross. And so, Radha, let's take each of those and dig in a little deeper. Tell us about the Employee Retention Tax Credit. It sounds like Congress made it larger and easier to qualify this time.
Sure, Luis. Happy to do that. Congress built on the credit by enhancing the credit in 5 key ways. First, Congress increased the percentage of qualified wages from 50% to 70%. Second, they increased the amount of the maximum credit from $5,000 per employee to $14,000 per employee. They decreased the standard for the decline in gross receipts from 50% to 20%. They changed the large employer restriction to those with over 500 employees, which means that those with 500 or fewer employees can get the credit for the time that the employee was actually working as well. And finally, they made those who claim the PPP eligible for the credit as well. Overall, some very generous expansions that will allow several businesses to take advantage of the credit.
Thanks, Radha. So we can see that industries like restaurants, bars, and theaters will mostly qualify and could get thousands of dollars per employee. Are these other tax credits for paid leave and sick leave just as generous? And are there any strings attached?
Great question, Luis. The sick leave credit is not as generous, while the paid leave credit is, though it's available under a much narrower set of circumstances. The sick leave credit covers 10 days of leave, while the paid leave credit covers 10 weeks for a maximum credit of $10,000. Now, keep in mind that these credits are intended to be used under different circumstances. For example, to cover short absences due to COVID-19, such as illness, for the sick leave credit, or for a child not being able to attend school due to closures for the paid leave credit. The ERTC, on the other hand, covers 10 to 11 weeks of a worker's entire compensation over and above what the employee actually worked.
That's right. And so, Ross, you also mentioned a second PPP loan that can be forgiven or turned into a grant. So is that a tax provision?
It's not a tax provision, but as we know, Luis, when folks come in to get their tax return prepared, particularly this year when the first quarter of 2021 is the period for which the PPP second loan draw is available, customers are going to ask questions. And so tax preparers need to be prepared to answer those questions.
And so, Ross, I have to ask, who qualifies for this forgivable loan? Same businesses as last time?
Not exactly. Congress did expand in a few ways. They made the loans available for 501c6 organizations, which are business associations, for housing cooperatives, for any businesses that didn't exist when the first round of the PPP loans were being given out, and a few other categories. However, they did limit it to employers with 300 or fewer employees. And remember, to qualify, a company would have to have sustained a 25% decline in revenue for any quarter of 2020 compared to the same quarter in 2019. But I will say that sort of once you qualify, you can use the funds for a larger set of expenses. It's not just for payroll and rent and interest. It can cover any property damages, it can cover worker protection expenditures and other categories, although they still have to fit within that 40% of the proceeds category. 60% has to be used for payroll costs still.
That's great, Ross. And so, Radha, we've talked about a number of business provisions. So what's in it for individuals?
Great question, Luis. Well, the main benefit for individuals is the second economic impact payment. Taxpayers who qualify will get $600 per adult and $500 per qualified dependent. Now, the $600 amount is only half of what was given in the CARES Act, which was a $1,200 payment, but it is still significant. Individuals who make under $75,000 a year or $150,000 for a married couple will get the maximum value of that payment.
That's right. Thank you, Radha. And thank you, Russ, again, for sharing insights on tax policy information tax preparers should use to educate their taxpayer clients. You can download all the information we shared today by visiting engagetax.wolterskluwer.com/Washington Tax Updates. We'll continue our video series with part 2, where we'll discuss the Employee Retention Tax Credit in detail. So stay tuned for more updates. Once again, thank you, Ross and Radha, for joining us today, and thank you everybody else for watching.